and there's a webinar on how to shift your mindset. I would like to thank you all and welcome. And before I introduce our trainer speaker of the day, I would like to share a few housekeeping rules. Please turn off your mic and cameras while the presentation is given. This webinar is being recorded, and so you'll find the recording on Octara's Facebook or YouTube channel tomorrow. If your friends or your colleagues haven't registered to this webinar, you can ask them to view this webinar on our Facebook page, Octara's Facebook page. And if you have any comments, suggestion, or feedback, put your questions or feedback in the chat box, and we'll try to answer the questions. After the webinar, towards the end, there will be a question answer sessions for 10 minutes, and we'll try to answer your questions towards the end. So now let me welcome and thank you, Rose-marie, our speaker of the day. I would like to highlight few credentials from her profile. She is the certified coach from International Coaching Federation, Canada. She's also the founder of Coaching Works, which is founded in Canada, where she provides transformational coaching to individuals coming from all walks of life. She's also a part-time professor in the Centennial College, Canada. And she's also worked as a lead consultant and HR professional in Associum. She has a very interesting profile. When I was talking to her, she has spent good 16 years traveling between Pakistan and Sri Lanka. And in Pakistan, she was a lead facilitator and corporate trainer with Octara. She has also served as a head of human resources in Aman Foundation. And she's also worked as a managing consultant in Ferguson Associates. There's a lot to mention from her profile, but I would like to welcome her and thank you. Thank you, Rose, for coming on board, and over to you.
Thank you, Aisha, for such an august introduction. And you can keep adding. When you notice the color of my hair, you can see how long my resume could be. I started working at the age of 19 in Karachi. So I won't tell you how old I am, but that's many, many years of working. And I would like to thank Octara and JJ for having me on this platform. When I returned back to Pakistan in 1996, 97, one of the first friends I made in Karachi was JJ. And he's the one who offered me the platform when he was forming the Toastmaster Club to do presentation skills. And from there, it went on British Council and Octara, and we had a long relationship. And now here I am in Canada. And actually, if it wasn't for COVID, I would not probably be able to reach you virtually. I am really excited. I'm so excited to be back on the Octara platform. And it's an honor for me. And I'm thrilled to see that so many people are coming online. My topic, it's early morning here in Toronto, but my topic for you this afternoon is moving from overwhelm into abundance. And it's all in the mindset. When I'm talking about, I'm going to share screen with you now. And so when I'm talking about overwhelm, and on this subject, here we go. All right. On the subject of overwhelm today, some of the key takeaways for you will be how gaining an understanding of overwhelm in these unprecedented times. You might create your own personal toolkit that's going to help you to create an abundant life. You will identify your own personal barriers on not reaching your goals, how to maintain positive energy, and I will introduce you to some resources that you can read and use as you go along. So, what is overwhelm? And if you will, in the chat line, if you will in the chat line, just tell me, what do you think is overwhelm? What is overwhelm? What do we have? Overwhelmed, buried. Um, no one can come up with a word. What is overwhelmed to you? Okay, so overwhelmed could be you feel exhausted, you feel depressed, you've got too many things going on, there's anxiety, there's sadness, there's fatigue, you're busy, you're inundated, you might feel crushed. Oh, my screen is jumping. You might feel crushed, you might feel totally overcome with what's going on around you. That's what overwhelm means. And so when you're in that state of overwhelm, I want to introduce you to my Quattro method that I came up with in my coaching practice, where overwhelm is here, right at the bottom, and how you can slowly, in 4 stages, from self-awareness to self-acceptance to self-actualization, and then you will reach self-acceleration. And in the middle, you have resilience and mental toughness. And in my presentation today, I will be focusing mostly on resilience, because when you build that tough mind, you can overcome anything. So resilience is like a seesaw. You know, you can go from overwhelm to abundance, abundance to overwhelm. And at any given time, we might have abundance and overwhelm in our life. So when I'm saying you might be really, really overcome, but in your mind, you might also have visions of plenty, of joy, of happiness. But to get there, you need to build your resilience. So the resilience is the fulcrum, it's in the middle, that helps you balance the seesaw between abundance and overwhelm. So the impact of COVID, what has it done to all of us? With the impact of COVID, every one of us, it doesn't matter where you are in the world, which strata of life you belong to. You could be in Canada, you could be in Pakistan, you could be Sri Lanka, you could be in Dubai, you could be in Europe. Each and every one of us are impacted by COVID. And when they announced this whole pandemic in March and there's going to be a lockdown, each one of us would have had fear. But if you ask anybody, so how are you doing? How are you? People would just say, I'm doing good, I'm doing good. But inside, we're all going through anticipatory grief. That means grief of something that could be expected to happen in the future. And at the same time, we're also going through adjustment disorder. We've all had to change our lives in some way or the other. We've had to look at being safe. We've had to look at not working from home. We've had to look at, sanitization. Well, in Canada, we cannot enter any place without a face mask. And so I cannot, in my condo building, I cannot step outside of my home without a face mask. It's against the law. They're heavy fines. And I'm sure in Pakistan, you also have similar adjustments that you have to go through in your workplace, in your home, social distancing, all these other factors that come into, that have changed our norm. And we don't know what the new norm is going to look like. We can only predict. We can only anticipate what this new norm is going to look like. And I found that this article on Harvard Business Review, and you will have a copy of this video on YouTube, so you may not want to copy things down, but this article on the discomfort that you're feeling is a form of grief. It is a form of sadness. So given that we have this, we are definitely in a state of overwhelm. And when we are in the state of overwhelm, some of the questions that we can ask ourselves is, who am I checking on? Who am I connecting with? Am I getting outside? Am I doing any exercise? Am I practicing self-care? And in the end, we have so much to be grateful for if we have stayed safe and stayed healthy. And gratitude really goes a long way in turning the mind towards abundance and creating mental toughness. So how do we deal with all this anticipatory grief? How do we deal with having to come up with new norms in the way in which we need to live? And one technique, one tool is applying words to our emotions. So if you're feeling something and you can name it, if you're feeling something, if you can say what it is that you are feeling. So if you want, you become self-aware when you name the emotion. When you say, I am feeling sad, I'm feeling depressed, I am feeling lethargic, maybe I'm confused, maybe I'm lost. Once you become self-aware and you accept that's what you're feeling, it's 50% of the journey towards creating resilience. Remember, resilience is that fulcrum and your seesaw. It's going to take you more towards your abundant mind rather than the overwhelmed mind. So you name the emotion and then you're able to tame it. How are you able to tame it? Is firstly, you become aware, you accept that this is how you're feeling, and then you can take action. So if I'm feeling sad, what can I do to cheer myself up under the circumstances? I'm feeling lethargic. What can I do to get out of this lazy mood? Do I need to phone somebody? Do I need to read a book? Do I need to listen to music? Do I need to talk to people? What is it you can do to help yourself move out of that emotion that you're feeling? And so when you're in this anticipatory grief state, here's another book by Elizabeth Kubler-Ross and David Kessler. It's a very famous, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross is very famous for creating the grief curve, where you are first in denial and then you go to acceptance. And it's a process. So you cannot go from just naming the emotion, okay, I'm sad. At first, you may deny what you're going through. No, 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 I'm fine. I don't need any help. But denial is one stage in that process of grief or incurring loss. We're losing an old lifestyle. We're losing a norm that we were used to. We have to enter a new norm. We cannot travel. We have to do certain things in our workplace. So when we're going through that, denial is the first thing that this cannot be happening. I remember that first month in March, when it was first announced that there's going to be this pandemic and we're going to do lockdown and you can't go anywhere, we went through fear and denial and saying, no, 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 this can't be happening. How can this be happening to the world right now? But remember that denial is one way, it's nature's way of letting in only as much as we can bear. Okay? So it's okay to feel denial, but it's not okay to stay in denial. So you need to name that feeling, and then you need to tame the feeling. If you don't tame it, you will end up in depression and total overwhelm. And we want to avoid the negative aspects of overwhelm, because anxiety, depression, sadness, once you start going down there, then you start to need a different kind of help. Not a coach help or a friend help, but maybe like therapeutic help. And you can avoid that by dealing with your emotions as you go along. So how can you do this? You're building resilience as you start to become aware of your emotions. How can you do this? Well, you can only control what you can control. What you can't control, you've got to accept it as that's the way it is. Like government decisions. Do we know how long this pandemic is going to last? Who is going to get COVID and who is not? Okay, who's following the rules? But you control your own attitude, your mindset, what it is that you focus on. What is it you can do for fun? What are your reactions? How you can take care of yourself, your routine. And again, we see again, what is it that I can be grateful for? And the whole state of mind when you are in gratitude, gratitude is positive thinking. So when you're thinking positive, you automatically, you create those positive chemicals in your mind and your body that we call dopamine. And dopamine and serotonin, those are prescriptions that we get for uplifting our mood. But our bodies can naturally create that if we create the mindset that is positive. So as you go on to build resilience, I tell my clients and my colleagues to become strong, to become mentally tough, you have to move out of your comfort zone. And what is your comfort zone? It's that little zone that we build for ourselves where we stay sheltered, where we feel safe, where we feel we are in control. And to step out of your comfort zone, it is understood that stepping out of your comfort zone is frightening. Okay? And we find excuses not to go there. No, I can't do this. No, I cannot go to work. I had someone in my circle that was terrified to have to step out and start work again and go through the new rituals of wearing a mask, going in, sanitizing. What if somebody else isn't doing it? What if I get COVID? There were all these fears. But then once she stepped out of the fear zone, she went into the learning zone. Okay, and then she started to deal with that challenge and that problem. Okay, I'm here. I got to be careful. We have to socially distance even in the workplace. And I remember, even at Eid time, it's very difficult that you cannot embrace, you cannot hug, but that's the way that's the new norm that's happening. And in a place, I can just say like Pakistan, where people are so people oriented and so friendly, and we like to congregate in groups, it must be extremely difficult to practice social distancing. And that does have an effect on what we're feeling. That's that new norm that we have to go through. And that has a sadness because we're losing an old life and we are creating a new life. And so we've got to say goodbye and put it in a little box and be grateful that we had a good time. And now this is a new life that we've got to embrace. And as we go from comfort zone to fear zone, to learning zone, to growth zone, that's how we start to become stronger and stronger. And so you cannot go from comfort zone to growth zone right away. The jump is too big. You have to experience the fear zone. And then when you learn that it's safe, it's okay, it's a new challenge, you start to increase where you are, your own comfort. You start to get rid of your discomforts. You start to get rid of your fears, and you start to grow mentally. So you can create, your own new purpose. You can start to think about new dreams going forward. And so what I would urge you, one piece of advice, I tell my colleagues and my clients, that every day, if you were to commit doing one thing, just one thing that takes you out of your comfort zone, you will start to build your resilience muscle. It's very much like going to the gym and you're exercising and you're building these physical muscles. Well, if you stop doing it, what happens? Your muscles get weak, right? So it's the same thing with building resilience. It has to be consistent. You got to do it all the time, slowly. You don't have to rush. There's no speed. There's no deadline for you to build resilience. You do it for everyone. It's different. So you do it at your own pace. But if you were to think of one thing each day that you could do to step out of your comfort zone, you will slowly acquire the mental toughness that you need to reach into your self-acceleration and into a life of abundance. It's also like, when you think of yourself and we talk about a stretch, you pull elastic, it stretches. Well, it never goes back to the same length. So wherever you are right now, if I asked you to raise both your hands, okay? So if you would do that wherever you are, I can't see you, but if you were to do that wherever you are, is raise your hands, okay? And now that you raised your hand, can you raise your hands some more? So you stretched it, right? Your reach increases. It's the same thing with comfort, being in your comfort zone. The more you do, the more you can take on, the more you can stretch. And just remember that you were born, you were born, you were programmed, sorry, you were programmed to be mediocre. So when I say you were programmed to be mediocre, it's like from the time you were born, you were a kid, as long as you crawled at the right time, at the right age, 4 months, 6 months, whatever, you started walking like everybody else at the right time, your teeth came out, you start to speak, you start to go to school, you start to get the marks, whatever that all the kids get, maybe you come first, second, third, okay, everybody is happy around you, and that's the status quo. So you were programmed, as long as you perform like everybody else in the rest of the world, you were mediocre. But actually, you were born, by the grace of God, you were actually born to be extraordinary. And this extraordinary means that each day you have to do something extra. And as you stretch yourself and you stretch yourself and stretch yourself, each day you start to grow and grow and grow. At this point, I will also share with you, give you another tool that how do you monitor yourself? Is journaling, writing a journal. It's a very, very important exercise. For one thing, you know, some of the gurus that I learned from for my coaching practice, they advise you to journal 3 pages every morning as soon as you wake up. So they advise you, you drink a glass of water that keeps your stomach clean and you get rid of all the toxins in your body. And then you do 3 pages of journaling that gets rid of the toxins in your mind. Your journaling doesn't have to have a subject, it doesn't have to have a topic. You just write whatever's in your mind. You write, you don't do, you can do it by the computer, but there's something very tactile about using your hand and writing. It doesn't have to have any sequence. You don't have to read it afterwards, and nobody else has to read it. So really what it is a brain dump. And once you cleanse your brain dump, you start to build your comfort zone even more, because when you're writing, you start to get rid of some of the negative thoughts and some of the thoughts that keep you stuck in the fear zone. Now I'd like to introduce you to the Energy Leadership Index assessment. It's the foundation of all the coaching that I do, but I will share this with you. In the 7 levels of energy, in the assessment that we do, what comes out is a printout that tells you about how your inside works. It doesn't tell you about your strengths, your weaknesses, like MBTI does, or you're good at this job or that job. It really tells you about, it's a DNA of your attitude and how you respond when you're under stress and when you're under normal circumstances. So usually when we're under stress, like we're going through this pandemic, we're going through these uncertain times, we're going through these scary times, we're going through so many changes, we tend to be in level 1, where we're the victim, poor me, poor I, this is what I got to go through, this is what's going on happening in my life. And so our thoughts and feelings are on lose, 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 lose. We're down there. And it's good to be there because you get a lot of attention. Everybody says bichari or bichara, they can't, you know, poor thing, lost her job because of COVID, and so it feels comfortable to just stay there and continue being a victim. However, you know where the victim will take you downhill. It takes you down to overwhelm, and it doesn't take you into a mind of abundance. So if you stay too long in that negative energy, the worst case scenario is that you can become ill. And then at level 2, there's a lot of anger. Why did this happen? Why now? Why me? This shouldn't be going on. This was not in the plan. This was not in the cards. And again, you are a loser. So at those first 2 levels, we call it catabolic energy. And then we start moving into more positive energy and more positive energy, where we start saying forgiveness, as the world is going through, and we have so much politics. So this country brought the COVID, this pandemic, or she gave me the disease, or she's not doing, or he's not doing. The next level is, okay, I forgive you, and so let's move on. And then we start having compassion, and there's more positive energy coming in. Okay, I will do it. If you can't do it. And most people in the helping professions, teachers, doctors, they have a very high level, have a very high level 4. And level 4 can also lead to burnout, because you're giving and you're giving and you're giving, and you don't have a boundary, you don't know where to stop. And then when we move into the higher levels of real joy and peace, level 5 is where you've accepted. So you've named the emotion, you're taming the emotion, you're moving out of your comfort zone, you're accepting. And at this level, one of the other things that I introduced, since you've got time in the COVID, maybe you're working at home. For me, it was a great time for me to develop those rituals really good habits that I've always wanted to have, but never had the time to do so, because, I've got to get up, I've got to write this report, I got this project, I got to be at work, or the bus got late, whatever, so there was some excuse not to have a certain set of a certain set of very good, strong habits, certain rituals, because rituals give us security. So when we know that we're going to do these 5 things in the morning, I'm going to journal, I'm going to exercise, I'm going to read some spiritual reading, then I'm going to start my work. Then you can start your other journals, where you're looking at your timetable, what you plan. And most importantly, that at level 5, we talk about goal setting, and we talk about having to achieve our goals and reaching abundance. But before we can even set a goal, it's to have the right intention. And when I say intention, when you intend to do something, you have told your mind and your willpower that this is what you're going to do. And so when we talk about willpower, it's you saying, I will. I am willing, I will. The minute you say, I can't, I cannot, you've already told that, your inside, your andruni message that I cannot do this. And that's right. You cannot. If you say I can't, it's true. But the minute you say I will, you open the doors to abundance, and you can achieve all your dreams. So as you get into the more positive energy, the negative energy was catabolic energy, and the positive energy is anabolic. So catabolic, anabolic, you start to build and build and build. And at level 7, there's absolute passion. It's winning and loving, and things just start happening for you. So it's up to you to attract this energy by not staying in the victim mode for too long. At any given time, we all have these 7 levels of energies within us, from level 1 to level 7. There are times, of course, we feel like a victim, but it depends on how much energy and how much time you spend in those lower levels of energy and lethargy, because that's what's going to give you blocks from moving forward. So while I've introduced this whole concept of energy levels with you, so how does this relate to my Quattro method of coaching or creating your mindset, your tough mindset, your positive mindset? So as you see, you're in overwhelm. This is where you're the victim, you're in apathy. And then as you start moving forward, you have anger, you get rid of the anger, you start forgiving, you start having passion, And as you start moving to abundance and self-acceleration, you start to achieve peace and joy. And most, I would say, people that exist over here, it's a learned experience. For you to come to move on these stages, it takes discipline and willpower. It doesn't just take listening to me. Oh, I heard this talk and there were great ideas. No learning takes place until you actually implement it. You put it, you do it. And I would say the success of my webinar, of my talk to you this morning, is knowing the fact that you've implemented. You started to move out of your comfort zone. You started to name your emotions. You started to look at your energy levels, and you're not spending that much time on being a victim. And so as I'm sharing all this with you, of course, you would say, well, how can I just jump? How can I move from each energy level? We're all human, so we go up and down. And as I said, at any given time, we have overwhelm and abundance. We have level 1 energy, level 7, all within us. But it depends on what percentage. And the more we move into the higher levels of energy, the more we attract abundance and acceleration, because the only thing that stops you from achieving what you want is yourself. And so some of the barriers that get in the way from having you moving into abundance, we call them GAILs, G-A-I-L. And what are these four? What does this GAIL mean? So some of our barriers are those limiting beliefs about ourselves that says, oh no, I cannot do this, I'm not good enough, I don't believe, I need to study more, I need to get a degree, I need to do a course, no, I cannot do it. Well, those limiting beliefs, guess who they belong to? They don't belong to somebody else. Those are the beliefs that you created. They're your beliefs. And you limit yourself. So you have to get rid of those limiting beliefs and say, no, why am I limiting myself? Why don't I try it? Why don't I step out of my comfort zone and see what happens? So you've got to be a little bit of a risk taker and try new things, as long as you're not thinking of jumping from a 5-story building and saying, oh, I'm not going to get hurt. That would be, a bit on the other side, going overboard, but step at a time through the process of getting rid of those limiting beliefs. The other one is, what gets in the way is your interpretation of a situation. And so, it's easy to say that during this COVID, oh, it's so bad, it's going to mobilize us, we can't do anything. But with every threat, there's an opportunity. And for even someone like me, admittedly, I'm very candid. I just say that even doing this webinar, when I started to think about, so what can I do? I have to reach people virtually. I'm an extrovert. I like to be with people. Don't forget, my roots are Pakistani. I like to be with people. I like to, people coming to my home, and it's summertime and all of that. But then I started to think, well, how else can I reach people? And then here I am. I don't know how many participants we have at the moment, but here I am early on this Tuesday morning. It's for me, it's your afternoon. I took the opportunity of saying, okay, let me do a webinar. Let me share some of my resources with other people. And so it depends. So you change your threat to opportunity. It's like looking at the glass half full and half empty. It's all in your mind, and you are the only person that controls your mind. The other barrier that will prevent you from achieving abundance and achieving your goal, achieving a positive mindset, is making assumptions. It doesn't mean that because you did it last year and that's how it turned out, you assume, okay, this is what's going to happen now too. It's not true. Assumptions stop you. They are the biggest barrier that prevents you from achieving your goals, from achieving abundance, from achieving a positive mindset. You cannot assume that because it happened once, it's going to happen again. Just, I don't need to tell you, all of you, you study that there's no such thing as a mistake. There's only an opportunity to learn. When you do something and something does not go right, it doesn't mean, oh my God, I made a mistake and it's the end of the world. It isn't. You've only learned one more way of how not to do something. Remember that failure is not the name of a person. It's not written across your forehead, she is a failure, I'm a failure, I didn't do this right. Failure is only a situation. It's not you. It's not a name of a person. And I know that we have a tendency, people say, oh, he is a failure, she's a failure, I'm a failure. And that gives you low self-esteem. It makes you lose confidence. All it means is that in one particular situation, that wasn't for you. You did not do it right, but it was only a situation. And a situation can be changed. You can also be changed. Your mindset can also be changed. And the fourth barrier is what some of us call gremlins. I say some of us in the mindset business, we call it gremlins, or we can call it your monkey mind, or we can call it your inner bully. And it's that voice inside that says, ha ha ha, I told you you couldn't do it. Ha ha ha, I told you you'd fail at it. Don't do it, don't do it, you're not good enough. We always have those voices from the past that comes from our programming. And remember that programming can be changed. Psychologists tell us that we are, by the time we're the age of 5, so those of you who are parents, you know that you've also programmed your kids. Well, by the time they're age of 5, and guess who has programmed them? Our parents. Mostly the mother, because children spend more time with the mother. A kid does not know what is day, what is night, what is breakfast food, what is lunch food. All that programming takes place. I got to go to school. It's all in the programming. When I'm 5, I go Montessori school or some other school and so on. You are programmed by the age of 5, 85%. Okay, it's all gone in there. And then you go to school, you finish, you do matric or you do O-levels or whatever, you're 18 years old, you can add another 5% to that. Then you go to college, you have influence of other teachers. So you think about those influences. You're not good at math, so you never try math. Or you're not good with people, so you think, okay, I'm not a people person. And those are all that goes into that programming. And by the time you're 21 years old, you're programmed 95%. But here's the good news, that with the 5% that's remaining, you can change the 95%. You can change all those inner programs. You can relearn. Sometimes you have to unlearn and relearn. Unlearn, learn, relearn. It's all part of how we live. So what role does this gremlin, this monkey mind play in our life? You can never get rid of them, but you can diminish the role that they play in your life. Gremlins play a role because they help protect us. They help protect us from pain. And they say, no, you don't need to do it. And so you don't do it. You stick in your comfort zone and so on. And they go, ha ha, I told you. So they make it a self-fulfilling prophecy. But you diminish their role by saying, hey, I know I didn't do it then, but I've grown and I don't need you now. So instead of telling me I can't do it, watch me. I am going to do it because I want to create a life of abundance. I want to be a winner. I want positive energy. And so you have to tell that your inner bully, your monkey mind, your gremlin, that I am worthy of abundance, and that's where I'm going to move. And that's where I'm going to self-actualize. That's where I'm going to accelerate all the gifts and resources that I have in my life. And so as I share all this with you, I hope that you can make use of some of these tools. And I have a nice little chart here of how you can get unstuck. And so this little spiral here, it takes you first from the bottom, where you see yourself as a person that's in a path of continuous growth, of moving forward, of moving into positive energy, of moving into a mindset of abundance. And then you accept. And even if things are the other way, you accept, okay, if that's not true, if that's true, how can I change it? You ask questions for yourself. And those of you who know the power of not the 3-page journaling that I'm telling you in the morning, but if you have a journal where you've recorded your goals, your intentions, okay, and how you have a little plan of how you're going to make those intentions come to life. We use positive affirmation. If you can see it, that means you can do it. It's to use your creativity. I remember I was a great fan of Stephen Covey. In fact, we used to do this program wasn't with Octara, at the British Council with JJ, the 6.5 Habits of Highly Effective Women, it was. But the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, he talks to you about using your independent will and using your creative imagination. There's no limit to your creative imagination. So if you can see yourself doing something, you can achieve it. The only limitation to your imagination is yourself. And I know that part of our programming, I remember my parents telling me, oh no, you don't need to dream, you should study first, you should do this. And that kind of diminished my creative abilities. But remember that if you can see it, be as creative. The world is in your hands. Okay, you can extend your creative imagination. Have humor in your life. And so imagine for a moment that you're in a comedy and not in a tragedy. Be able to tell jokes. Without humor, you cannot create that dopamine, that serotonin that you need to keep your mind positive. Be willing to change your point of view, being agile. And you know, the Susan David, who I follow a lot, she's a guru on emotional agility, how to move your, how your emotions can be agile. You can change them. And see, again, identify your emotion. It is what it is, but it's not a fact because our emotions keep changing. You know, it's never permanent. Talk to yourself in the third person. So it's like, so Rose-marie, what are you going to do now? What is it you're going to do about this? Your intuition will guide you on how to make the next move, how to get unstuck. Look for the silver linings on every dark cloud, because believe me, there are silver linings. And remember that the whole world is going through these uncertain times. So there's uncertainty, there's volatility, and we need to, of course, focus on the silver linings. And as I just said, if you can see it, you can make it happen. And so with self-acceleration, which is step 4, you can be that champion. You can be focused. You can be tough. You can have power. You can, it contains all of these words I have on the screen in this word cloud. You have peace, you have spirit, you have drive, you have justice, you have respect, you have focus, which is ever so important, okay? And so I remember this book that was given to me. Actually, JJ, you're the one who gifted me this book years and years ago. And it gives me, even till today, whenever I feel sad or down, I pick it up. Viktor Frankl gives me a lot of comfort. And so between stimulus, he says, between stimulus and response, there's a space. How we respond, okay, that is what takes us to growth and freedom. And Peter Bregman, one of my favorite people, in his book 18 Minutes, it's a great book for time management if you're looking for something to organize yourself. But he says, if you're willing to feel, So when you move out of that comfort zone into fear, you're going to feel. But if you only allow yourself, you're willing to feel everything, you can do anything. So give yourself permission. Say, I'm willing to feel. Brene Brown is another great writer who talks a lot about vulnerability. And she says, if you love yourself and you support each other in the process of becoming each other and in the process of becoming real, is perhaps the greatest single act of daring greatly. And that's what you need to do. And so I would say, in the end, if you have gratitude, you have forgiveness, you have success, nothing comes without discipline, willpower, and other qualities that can take you, other positive qualities, vision, into creating a positive mindset, changing your attitude. And this is my quote: it is your passion that ultimately leads you to your destiny. So when you're really truly passionate about something, that's what's going to create your future and your abundant mindset. And so with that, I will thank you. I will just say, here's my email address. I'm also on LinkedIn if you want to reach out. Rose-marie Fernandez. So it's Marie, M-A-R-I-E, Fernandez with a Z, at coachingworks with an X.ca. This time went by so fast, I can't believe that my talking time is kind of over, and I can stop sharing and be back with you. And if you have any questions, and Aisha, if you see any questions that you think showed up on the chat, I'm happy to answer them.
Yeah, so I would like to announce that the floor is open for question and answers. If you have any questions, please do write in the chat box. We have a question from Muhammad Ahmed. He's asking how overwhelm is applied in workplace. And then he's also asking, what are the ways to deal when you are overwhelmed in workplace? How do I stop being overwhelmed by tasks?
Okay, when you talk about overwhelm in workplace, I would just say that who creates the overwhelm? We create the overwhelm. So how do you deal with overwhelm in the workplace? How do you deal with a task? It might be you need some time management, or you need to delegate your work, or you need to say, I can only do this much today. The rest can be done tomorrow. So it's a matter of organizing. So if you practice some good time management, if you do some delegation, and also accept that in 24 hours or your workday of 8 hours, this much can be done. The other has to be done the next day. So you might need to do some planning. Does that answer your question?
He's also asking in the latest comment, he's saying, is it necessary for everyone in an organization to follow the same protocol as explained by you to achieve the said mindset toughness, or it varies from position to position?
It varies from person to person, not from position to position, because we're all different. So what I shared today are just some tools. They're not carved in stone. It's not like a policy and procedure manual. We're all different. We all have different ways, and that's why I put different things out there, because different people will be attracted to different tools or what they manage. So it varies from person to person. I see the name Adil Ahmed on. Is it the same Adil that makes notes and writes articles and stuff like in the old days? I'm just say hi to Adil. Somebody I recognize. Okay, any other questions?
So I think we don't have a question right now. And I would like to make a quick announcement, if you allow me to.
Sure.
Yeah. So Octara has, keeping in mind the existing COVID situation of COVID-19 and the upcoming trend of online training, Octara has come up with the new service, of introducing, of bringing live webinars and recorded webinars on via WhatsApp channel. So we have initiated this service a month ago, and within a month we have exceeded the limit, and we have to recreate another channel, WhatsApp channel, or the WebMall Plus. And we like the primary focus of WebMall Plus is to bring live events and webinars, and mainly by international resources, to all our clients, to our trainers community, and anyone who is interested in self-development or professional development. So I want to share a slide of that thing. If you, so anyone who is interested to log in or interested to see what are the upcoming things that are coming on WebMall Plus, they can become a member of this chat group by registering on a, or by a link that will come shortly on your screen. It's there. So I hope everyone can see my screen. So you have to go on this link. I also put this message on the chat box. So if anybody is who is interested in, in knowing what are the coming programs or webinars or events coming via Octara, so they can, come and register themselves and listen to this this learning material. Okay. Let me also put this in the chat box. Rose-marie, you can continue with with anything you want to say.
Actually, I'm looking for questions. Yes, I think JJ, you want to speak?
Yeah, I want to add to to the gentleman who asked that question about how to handle the overwhelmed part in work. I want to add to what your answer to him was, and that is that overwhelmed is only when you are not very proficient in the skill that is necessary on that particular time and moment, you see. Because what has happened is that COVID itself has created a requirement for learning many new skills, And if you don't learn those new skills, which are mostly related to technology, you are going to be overwhelmed with whatever work you were doing in the past. So, you better, like Rose-marie has rightly said, that it's time to unlearn a lot of things. It's time to learn a lot of new things and further relearn all those things again. Because without that, you will have a serious issue of not being able to come up to the tasks that are required in today's age. So my advice is that do not create a situation where you will be overwhelmed, and that would lead to obviously frustration, desperation, and negative feelings. I thought I'd add that.
Very good. I support what you just said.
Adil Ahmed Saab is saying, how do you bridge the gap between theory and practice?
How do you bridge the gap between theory and practice? I would actually say just do it. Jump in and do it, as Nike says. You have to have the will, like let's say, name the emotion. Don't say, no, I don't feel anything, I'm too scared to name. No, I'm feeling sad. Accept you're feeling sad. And then start saying, okay, how do I bring this sadness down? What am I sad about? Why do I need to be sad? The whole world is suffering right now. And so it's being able to just do it.
He's also commenting saying mental block, brain freeze.
Mental block, those are the barriers. So what is blocking you? Is it your limiting belief? Are you assuming that it's not going to work? Are you afraid? Step out of your comfort zone slowly, do one step at a time. You see, those are the advices I would give about mental block. Yes, of course, it's easier said than done, but it's our own willpower. It's your own passion. It's your own discipline that says, I want to do this. So you do it in small steps. You don't take quantum leaps and say, okay, I'm going to do the whole thing in one day. No, nothing, nothing, we don't drink instant tea, do we? We drink brewed tea, so it's slowly, slowly, slowly that you make yourself stronger. We don't really know how strong, we're like a tea bag. You don't know how strong you are until you put yourself in the hot water.
Okay, I think we have a few minutes left to close down today's webinar, and I would like to take opportunity to thank all those participants who took time off and came and graced this occasion, and also encouraged us to do more of this kind of activities. I'd like to thank especially Rose-marie for your time and for the insights that you have shared with regards to overcoming this overwhelm and getting into a situation of abundance. I am thankful for you to remind me of some good days in the past with the British Council, with working with yourself. And yes, of course, I want my book back. And yes, we did have you played a very important role in building this, in fact, the foundation of the Toastmasters group in Pakistan. We were the first group, we were the first batch that came out with, public speaking, Toastmasters Incorporated. So thank you very much for your time, your insight. My takeaway from today is, I think, something that I've always wanted to do, and today you've reinforced that, is that every morning, if you can write 3 pages, in fact, even 1 page for starters, with your thoughts and, detoxify, like you said, your mind, that would be something that I would want to very much late in my life, but still want to go back and incorporate that, because I think you're right in saying that writing it down, even 1 page, brings in all the senses into play, your mind, your hand, your eyes, So it's a very useful practice habit to get into, especially if all those who can hear me, if they are within the range of age, which I think they are, within, I would say 20 to 30 to 35, 40, other than Adil, I would strongly recommend you get into that kind of a habit, forming a personal diary. And that is a very important, I think, insight that you have given to all of us over here. Otherwise, I like the word that you used, for this is the brain dumping. I've never heard of that before, dump your toxins from your brains, by doing that. So thank you again, Rose-marie. Thank you, all participants, for taking time out and gracing this occasion. And most of all, thank you for my team at Octara, with specific mention of Aisha, Zainab, Sarim, and all my other team members in the office who have put this webinar together. At Octara, we try to share knowledge. We try to. This is all free, and mind you, there's a lot of time and effort that the team puts into collating and gathering together all the relevant webinars that are useful for self-development and self-improvement, put them together and then push it out through social media. It takes a sizable amount of time. And we're doing all this as part of our responsibility, social responsibility, in disseminating knowledge that is essential in today's time, because most of the webinars that we are promoting are not webinars of the past. They belong to how we're going to address the future. So what are the things that we need to know? What are the things that we need to learn? And what is most important is, to have a positive attitude towards whatever is happening due to COVID. So thank you, everyone. And I'll pass you on back to Aisha.
Well, Aisha, before you, I just want to thank all of you too, Aisha and Zainab, who spent so much time with me doing the dry run and setting up all of this. It would not have been so seamlessly delivered if it wasn't for all your efforts.
Thank you, Rose. Thank you. On behalf of Team Octara, I would like to thank Rose for giving us such a useful seminar. And I was personally going through a time when I was being overwhelmed. So this webinar is personally very useful for me, and I hope it's equally useful for everybody who's listening to this 1 hour session. So thank you all for signing in and tuning in to this webinar. We aim to bring more webinars on your way, and of course some online training as well. This webinar is recorded, as I said in the beginning, and the recording is available on our Octara YouTube channel. So stay tuned for future webinar. I thank you all. Thank you, Rose, for your time.
Welcome.
And see you in the future.
And don't forget to
Okay.
register for the webinars.
Yeah.
To get the webinar information, you need to register on the link that was given earlier on as a slide, and it might be in the recording also.
Yeah, it's in the recording also. And if you have missed the link in the slide, it's there in the chat box. So if you want to see the registration link, it's there in the chat box. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Doesn't want to leave.
No. They want to see if we say any and give any more tips.
I like the example of the tea bags.
I see that. Yeah.
Okay, bye-bye. I'm leaving.
You're leaving? Who's leaving?
Me. Zainab.
Zainab. Okay, Zainab.
Bye.
Everybody else, maybe they're not even near their computer anymore. They don't want to. So you know what, Aisha? You do what you need to do, right? You need to do some things. And I saved the chat line. You can do the participant list. We can talk on the phone.